Okay, I think that playing in a duo setting for bluegrass guitar is one of the most fun and enjoyable and gratifying things that you can do as a guitar player. However, a lot of folks don't really know how to accompany truly just another guitar player. So that's what I want to talk about today. How do you play bluegrass rhythm guitar when you're just playing with another guitarist? There's definitely a lot of subtlety and craft to this. I'm going to try to give you 6 tools that you can start to think about that can change the way you accompany in that setting specifically, and this is going to transfer over to all of your playing, hopefully. So the main issue when you're just playing with one other instrument is really space. If we were playing a fiddle tune, Whiskey Before Breakfast, and you started playing and you were just playing with another guitar player and you started playing this, there's no space. There's no space for rhythm. There's no space for dynamics. There's no space for harmony. There's no space for listening to one another. The best part about playing with just 2 people is you're having this dialogue, this back and forth, this opportunity, because it's so simple. It's just 2 people. And so when you're not listening, when you're not creating space, it's not going to really sound great. There's this video of Bill Frisell and him talking about what the point of playing music with other people is. And he basically says something to the effect of, it's not about one-upping, it's not about competing, it's about saving each other. It's about how do I save this person, right? It's about this dialogue, it's about support, it's about elevating one another's playing. That's really the goal of this whole thing. So let's take Whiskey Before Breakfast and really start to break it down. How can I accompany another guitar player? Well, the most basic thing that I'd say you should start with is just a boom chuck. Quarter notes, right? That is a palette. That is a blank canvas for you to be able to paint on. Something I really like to talk about with rhythm guitar playing is boom chuck is your bass line, and then you can either add or you can subtract. So you can add, or you can subtract. But what if you added and you subtracted? I kind of just did it right there, right? So adding would be more rhythmic information. So subdividing, instead of just quarter notes 1, 2, 3, 4, we can add 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. To subtract, you're just mostly focusing on bass notes. But what if we added and subtracted at the same time? So we create space, and then we're using the rhythmic subdivision to create propulsion forward. That might sound like, go in both directions at the same time, but still maintaining space. So we've got quarter notes, the boom chuck, we've got this idea of adding, we've got the idea of subtracting, we've got the idea of adding and subtracting. Next, I want to talk about the idea of adding, but not using strums to add rhythmic information. Talking about cross-picking, and this is why cross-picking is so useful, especially in smaller ensembles where there's more dynamic range and you can hear the quiet stuff. If we're going to subdivide with chords, that's going to take a certain level of volume. But what if we took those eighth notes and turned them into cross picks? That's the same thing as going, but you can leave a lot more space because we're not strumming through the entire instrument. So this is another idea, cross-picking, and how we can utilize the dynamic range of a duet, which the dynamic range is much lower, and still create rhythmic variation with less volume. This is why cross-picking is so crucial to duet playing, really. Let's continue to talk about volume. Another tool in your toolbox is pick grip. You know, you can still strum through a lot of this stuff, but maybe in that context, if you're gonna do that, in the duo context, you just lighten your pick grip. You don't play as loud. Really light grip. One last thing to think of when you're accompanying, when you're playing a duet. Whiskey Before Breakfast, play out of a C shape a lot. One thing you can do though, if you're accompanying another guitar player, if you don't want to step on people's toes in the same range that they are, is you can play in 2 different capo positions. Have one player capo up to 2, play out of C, have the other player play in D, right? Now these 2 shapes are pretty related. You might even want to drop down to D. right? Now these chord shapes are different, the voicings are different, and that will create some harmonic variation in between the two players. Okay, last I just want to give you an example of me imagining how I might play rhythm guitar if I was just playing with one other guitar player. This is how I imagine I would play. It would depend on the context, but this is kind of all that stuff I've been talking about. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Very simple, very laid back, leaving a lot of space, some subdivisions, some bigger gaps, some bass lines, a lot of bass lines, but really just keeping that groove and inviting your fellow musician to play something. Leave it as an invitation, as an open door. Hope that helps. If you want to learn more with me, check the link below. As always, please like and subscribe and yada yada.